when you're going into boot camp.
Yep.
What were the first couple of years in the Marine Corps for you? Like, what was the path to get to MARSOC?
So went to boot camp, went to School of Infantry, went to the infantry, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines. That was my first duty station, and that's where I became a scout sniper. MARSOC didn't exist back then, so when I got back from my second sniper deployment with the grunts, the infantry, I went to Force Reconnaissance, so that was 2006. Force Reconnaissance was like the premier unit at the time. We had one more premier unit called Detachment 1, but at the same time, Detachment 1 was going away. Detachment 1 was our first introduction into like special operations. They were doing like some tier 1 mission packages with other tier 1 units on a few deployments, and that's when the 2006-7 transition happened, and they said, like, you know, the Marine Corps is going to have a special operations branch. So at the time, Force Reconnaissance went away, Detachment 1 went away, and those guys came down, became our leaders inside of MARSOC, the new MARSOC.
Okay.
And then Force Reconnaissance, basically, we stood up MARSOC back in 2006-ish, 2007 timeframe. And so for 2 years, we were operating with no Force Reconnaissance, only MARSOC. So now we're doing a SOCOM mission. And like about 1.5 years, 2 years into it, that's when we started like our schoolhouse to actually create a pipeline, because we were basically just like, bro, we were turning and burning. We were operating on 4 companies, and we only had manpower for 3. So like, dudes were constantly gone. We're heavily engaged in Afghanistan at this point in time, because it's all basically soft influence, right? It was a small general purpose, big soft presence, and so the path to MARSOC really was honestly timing for me personally. There was no like, I want to be MARSOC one day. Like, it didn't even exist. I didn't even know about it. Like, I was in jump school actually at Fort Benning, and I got a phone call from a buddy of mine, a teammate. He's like, "Hey, dude, we just like changed it to like MSUB, Marine Special Operations Battalion, and we kind of heard these things, but like, you know, the military, bro, like, you don't believe shit till it happens." But the crazy thing is when it did happen, they're like, "Hey, everyone is on relaxed grooming standards. You're going to be issued no shaved shits and relaxed grooming standard shits next week. Everyone's going to be in like, you know, basically soft casual attire." And we're like, "Dude, this is the sickest thing ever, bro." Because like, anytime you can get over on the military, it's a huge win, bro. Because like, you know, like, you wore a flight suit, right?
Yeah.
Anytime you wore it a little bit lower, you're savage. Anytime you had that extra patch on, you're savage. You know, or your different glasses. Like, it's these small one-up things that make you feel kind of unique and special in a robot, in a like a fucking sea of zombies, honestly, you know? Well, that lasted like a week and a half, dude. And they're like, "What the fuck? Who told you all this?" You know? And like, it went back to like Gestapo tactics, and but it was great, man. But that's basically how MARSOC was started. And I started on the West Coast, so that was the story of the West Coast. And the East Coast has a completely different story of how they originated. Yeah, that was basically my path to MARSOC and in MARSOC. And then to stay in the unit back then, you had to pass a qualification test. So basically what would happen is you had to like meet these requirements. So like, if you met these requirements and you did this training, plus you were able to do this like selection, this is like a very micro selection, you were good to go. If you could not pass those or didn't meet the requirements, they sent you away. So some guys in MARSOC or Force Reconnaissance did not go to MARSOC. So it was kind of crazy. That wasn't just like a free fall. It was kind of selective in a bunch of weird ways. A lot of it drug deals, a lot of it just like performance based. But I was just very fortunate that I met the qualifications and I could pass the things to do what I needed to do, because it was game on at this point. None of us really knew like the caliber of like where it was going. We were just like, fuck yeah, more money, more guns, let's go. More money for training.
Sign me up.
You know, more money for special duty assignment pay, more fucking guns, different guns, weapon systems that we had access to at the time, different mission sets. Like, that was like every kid's like dream right there, right? Like, who doesn't want to do that? You know, who doesn't want that opportunity to like do what the commercial said you're going to be able to do? And you know, it still wasn't like that to the full way. It's actually funny. One of my buddy who is a contractor at that unit I was talking about, he's like, he was my boss back in the day. He's like, man, where I'm at, bro. He's like, it's like everything we've ever wanted to do. It's like everything the commercials were, like everything. And I'm like, fuck. So like that I'm like, thanks, dude. As I'm over here, like I physically probably could not pass that right now, but like, thanks for like letting me dream, because like that aspect, all that cool shit's that's so tight. Who doesn't want to do that? I did. I'm still about that. I'm like, well, how can I do it differently nowadays that like really benefits like this calling that I have inside? And I feel like I'd be taking a step back to go do something like that. And I'd literally only be doing it for money, and that never ever works out. I took that job in LA only for money because they were paying me like $280,000. I'm like, I got face tattoos. You're gonna pay me $280,000? Shit, dog, let's go.
Sign me up.
Yeah, like
Sign me up.
I'm like, I only did it for the money. And day one, I was miserable. Day one I was miserable. So I'm like, why would I repeat this process when it's not like I'm fighting for America or the flag, or like, it's just, it's, you're doing something you're really good at. And there's obviously a lot of injustice out there, but like the cause or my why is not attributed to that. It was solely on self-fulfilling and financial gain.